Greetings, Corpse Clubbers, and welcome to another episode of Corpse Club Horror BFFs. I am one of your horror BFFs, Patrick Bromley, joined as always by my horror BFF, Heather Wixson. Hey, Heather.
Hey, Patrick, I just realized I was like, I wonder if he's going to start this or if I'm starting this. And then you just took it. And I was like, all right.
I dove right in because I'm like,
king of podcasts.
People are going to be very confused when this episode of Corpse Club hits their feed because they have not heard our voices in a long time.
I know. Well, it's like we've barely even able to scratch out time for Craven.
Right.
So it's like, you know, we both have a bunch of things going on, some that we probably will get to talk about soon enough.
Mm-hmm.
There might be a fun split for us. But yeah, so it's just like, I actually posted interviews in the last week, which is kind of crazy because I never get to do that much on Daily Dead these days. So yeah, I just feel like I've been so out of the loop on so many different things. So yes, hello everybody. Happy
Hello,
2023.
everybody.
March.
Corpse Club continues to march on every week without us, but it is nice to be back to talk about Scream 6.
Yes, I feel like we're both special guests on this. I feel like we should have one of the core Daily Dead people, one of the core four. There's four of them now. I don't know.
Core
because
four?
I know because there's
Hashtag
Jonathan, Derek, Scott, and Brian.
Brian, yeah.
So they are the core four. We're just the extraneous characters. So we are the potential suspects. But yes, I'm so excited because we did Scream 5 last year.
Yes. So we're back to talk Scream 6, the number one movie in the country, the biggest opening for a Scream movie ever.
It's pretty amazing.
The franchise only gets bigger the longer it goes.
It's weird, right? I think what's really awesome, and this is something I've talked about with Brian a bunch, not Brian Christopher, no offense, Brian Christopher, but when we go to music festivals and stuff, we kind of see the things that all the 20-year-olds and such are catching on to out there in pop culture. And over the last few years, Pennywise has been really popular. Chucky's been huge, but it really feels like Ghostface is coming to his own. I actually kind of feel like at this point now, Freddy, Jason, and Leatherface are almost like universal monsters to this generation, where we grew up loving them, but we were a little more disconnected from them.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like the sort of the most with it or hip happening icons, if you want, are really, Chucky, Pennywise, and Ghostface. I think that's where it's at right now in horror.
They're the ones that still have stuff coming out. I mean, I guess Leatherface technically does because there was that Netflix movie.
Yeah, but I don't think a lot of younger folks probably watched it. I think most of the people
you're right.
Most of the people who did watch it were probably us old fogies who were very interested in it.
Right.
So, have you checked out the 4K yet?
Not yet.
The original?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm excited to, but I haven't yet.
Yeah, I haven't been able to check out mine either. I had to buy mine. You got yours.
Well, listen, I lucked out. I don't know. I don't know what happened.
No, I'm happy for you. Yeah, it was funny because I've been told oh yeah, because I'm in the thing, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll make sure you get it, and I didn't get it, so I bought it like a good horror citizen.
Nobody ever told me I was getting one. It just showed up.
I think that's awesome. That's how is it ubiquitous that you are with Tobe Hooper? Is that the word I'm supposed
Perhaps.
to say? Okay.
I don't synonymous.
Synonymous. That's
what we're looking for.
I'm looking for my 25-cent words. So there you go. So you are the go-to guy, I think, for the Tobe Hooper stuff. So
Woo-hoo.
Which I think bodes well for maybe our post Craven plans.
I like where your head's at.
Yeah. I think, and the day that we're recording this, I believe, is the anniversary of the Funhouse release.
It is. It came out in 1981 on this day, and it is my favorite Tobe Hooper movie. So I would watch it tonight, but I have other stuff I have to watch.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Oh well.
Gotcha.
So Scream 6, Ghostface goes to Canada.
Yes, I'm actually mad at myself that I didn't just go with the easy joke of Ghostface takes Manhattan, because I'm I don't think any of the horror sites went with it, and I feel like we've done the genre world a disservice. It's the easy joke, and I don't really care that it's the easy joke because it's so catchy. But yeah, Ghostface in New York / Montreal, I believe.
Well, there's this is not a spoiler. We'll talk spoiler free for a couple minutes, and then obviously we need to get into spoilers because how else can you
Yeah.
discuss this movie? But there's a scene early on where a character is watching Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. And it's this cute little wink because, haha, we're going to New York. And also remember when they went to New York, but didn't really go to New York, and they were mostly on a cruise ship and they were in Vancouver. And then you watch this movie and you're like, you guys are in Canada too. What are you making fun of Jason for? They're not really making fun of Jason.
No, they're not making fun of Jason at all. And I think honestly, for me as a fan, I don't care where you shoot for New York. What I care about is that you actually are in New York.
Right.
And also, like, is there like an ocean between New Jersey and New York all of a sudden?
The cruise
like
liner.
Yeah, that boat ride takes like 8 hours or something like that. And they're like,
Crystal Lake is huge.
I just don't get it. Like, I don't like, and also, like, how are we having big, huge boats like that in Crystal Lake? Or is he like leaving Crystal Lake and going into bigger bodies of water? And at which point I'm like, why would you do that?
So Friday 8 is the weakest of the Friday movies.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it because they're shot in Vancouver. I get it. Shooting in New York is a pain in the ass. And frankly, when they did get to Times Square and did shoot there, it's awesome. It rules.
Yeah.
But like, there's so much about that movie that like there's zero continuity when it comes to Jason. Jason has like 18 different looks in there. He's like it's like the Beyonce of like horror performances because every time you see him, he's different. He's changed something up. So yeah, that's sort of my issue with Jason Takes Manhattan, and it's kind of boring.
It's boring, and the characters are kind of bad. And say what you will about the Friday the 13th franchise, but if you're a fan of those movies, one of the reasons you're a fan is because you like the characters, especially in the first couple of movies. Like the campers are really likable and fun to be around. By Part 8, they're just like these generic placeholders that kind of. We're supposed to be talking about Scream 6, but they took a page kind of from A Nightmare on Elm Street where each character gets like one defining characteristic, and then that's how they get killed off.
They took the wrong notes.
Oh yeah,
from the Nightmare franchise.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
But anyway, back to Scream 6. Yes. So I guess we could talk about like overall impressions first, maybe then, and then we'll kind of go into more of the spoilers. But so you like this better than 5?
I think, but I need to live with it longer.
Okay.
My gut reaction is that I will watch this one more often.
I get it.
I don't totally know why that is, but that's just like I've only seen it once. I know you've seen it more than once, but like. Having seen it one time, I was like, I feel like this is one that I like hanging out in, and I like hanging out in 5 too. I think the two of them together will actually be a lot of fun. But it's practically a tie. I'm giving the edge to 6 because I like the New York setting and I like what they do with some of the core 4 and all that stuff. I think the new characters are much better served in this movie than they were in 5, but honestly it's practically a tie. How about you?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've definitely lived with 5 more because I'm a weirdo who watches movies like over and over again when I'm working. So I've seen 5 a lot over the last year. I mean, I think I saw it in theaters like 5 times.
Holy cow.
Well, because like I did the press screening and then we did the drive-in a couple times, and then I watched it a few times at home. So I think I'm like between like 8 to 9, I think, viewings of that one. I know. It's no wonder I can't keep up with the new releases. I watch the same stuff over and over again. So I'm more like acclimated with that. But I will say for me, for 5, the more time I spend with it, there's certain aspects of it that don't gel with me as much. Because I don't think the characterizations are as fully realized as because I think like when you get that initial introduction to everything, like you're still getting introduced. So like for me, what I think 6 does right is I think 6 really lets you settle in with these characters more than 5 does.
Yeah.
I mean, because especially even in 5, like there's a disconnect between Sam and Tara already. So even just trying to get their chemistry and their back and forth established is pretty tough in 5 because they're kind of at odds for 2/3 of that movie.
Well, and 5 is trying to serve two masters because it's introducing you to new characters while also trying to incorporate the legacy characters. And this one is a little freer to be its own thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like I will say, like, there's definitely things about 6 that I have minor quibbles with that we'll get into when we talk spoilers.
Sure.
But I mean, it's freaking fun. I was
Yeah.
kind of nervous, like with my my issues with it, like the rewatch of it would be like, oh, okay, not a concern for me whatsoever. We did the 3D, which I don't think anybody needs to do in 3D, but I was like, it's a horror movie in 3D. Why not? And if we're going to go theatrical, let's just do that because, if you're in 3D, maybe less chances that people are on their phones.
True.
Because you have the stupid glasses on.
Right.
So yeah, so like I'm it's tough. Like you and I've talked about this. Like I can't rank these movies alongside Wes's.
Right.
Like I'm just that person and I've made peace with it. But I think they're both great. I think like if Wes was still around and he saw what Radio Silence was doing with this franchise, I think he'd be freaking happy as all hell. I think because they had a really tough nut to crack on this franchise because like the first 4 movies were so much about talking about different things about society, about horror culture and things like that. Where these, they do that to a degree, but they also feel more reflective of the franchise as a whole. So I like that 5 and 6 do that. I do hope they kind of break out of that a little bit in 7.
Yeah. And 7 has already been greenlit, right? I mean, if it hasn't.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they've already been working on a script and stuff. I mean, I knew like when I saw the reactions to the first trailer, I was like, this is probably, and it sounds so hyperbolic, but I was like, this is probably going to be the biggest scream that we've seen.
Yeah.
And it has been, which is it's amazing. It makes me happy. Like, would I've always wanted more success for Wes? Of course I would, because I'm that person. But holy shit, it's like a studio horror movie franchise that we're into the 6th movie and it's doing this well. That is such an anomaly.
And that's like something just as a horror fan that I'm happy about because I am nostalgic for the 1980s, where, as we were just talking about, like we had multiple horror franchises that were like going concerns and you would get a new one every year, every 2 years. And that's kind of gone away. That's not to say we haven't gotten any sequels to horror movies. We still do, but like to have a franchise that's on a part 6 that's still going as strong as this one, that was able to be reinvented because of the time that they took off. And that makes me excited for the next one. Like, instead of depressed about, oh shit, another sequel, is kind of awesome.
Yeah, because I mean, I'll be really honest. Like I love the Conjuring movies. But I think the last one that we had, I was just kind of like, oh, okay. Like
I didn't even see it.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't mean that in any disrespect to Michael Perez or anything like that, but I just didn't feel like it was pushing things in any sort of new capacity. And I think, 5 really had to like set a new bar. And I think 6 like totally obliterates that in a lot of ways that I wasn't expecting. And so for me to like to have, folks like Matt Bettinelli open and Tyler Gillette like at the helm of this, in really putting care and craft, and like you can just tell there's like the wheels are turning always when they're making these movies where they know that they have to serve us old stodgy diehards, but they got to do something new for the new kids as well. And like you took Charlie, right? Who's only seen
I did.
5.
Yeah. We watched 5 a couple nights before we went to see this. And I'm sure there's a lot of stuff he didn't necessarily get because he doesn't know who Kirby is. And there's lots of references in this one to the first 4 movies that he wouldn't have understood. But I don't think it took away from his enjoyment of the movie. It's like cool shit for us as fans of the franchise, but I don't think it's alienating.
No, and I think what's interesting is somebody made a tweet this weekend, and I kind of lightly dunked on it because I was just like, tell me you've never seen a Scream sequel before without telling me you haven't seen a Scream sequel. But like they were like that, like now the Scream franchise feels like the Fast and Furious movies where you have to know every plot detail and blah, blah, blah. We're like, I think it's helpful to know those things going into this, but also there is literally a room and a scene that breaks down the first four movies for you.
Right.
So to me, I actually think this one is super accessible in a way where it feels super geeky for those of us who have been watching the movies for decades, but also kind of gives new fans a primer that hopefully excites them to go back and watch the other movies. I would hope.
Yeah, and you do kind of need to have seen 5, but I think beyond that, I think you're good.
Yeah, and also too, like, hello, thank you for the shout out to the very ambitious Roman Bridger. Like, I might have been the only person who cackled at that twice, but that line was written specifically for me, and I thank Radio Silence for it.
I refuse to let them make me like Scream 3, but it's a funny line.
It's a great line.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Yeah. So no, I was just like, yeah, I love it. I'm in it. So yeah,
I think one of the quibbles that I have with the movie, honestly, is when it does try to incorporate some legacy stuff, and this may be controversial and you may push back hard on me for this, but I don't think this movie needs Gale Weathers.
I don't think it did either. And in fact, and that's one of my sort of minor quibbles that I'll go, we can, when we hit more of the spoiler, I can go into more specifics, but I agree. I'm actually, look, do I want Neve Campbell in like every horror movie ever? I will always want that. But do I feel, and we talked about this after 5, like, do I feel like Sydney's journey is done?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Like, she's a mom now. She's happily married. She's been through so much shit. Like, let this character go on. And if they bring her back, let it be for the right reason, not just because they're making another Scream movie.
Right.
And I'm really hoping, if my theories are correct about where 7's probably heading, I think incorporating her into 7 in some capacity will work. Which we can also talk about once we get to spoilers. Okay. But yeah, like, am I excited always to see Courtney Cox in a Scream movie? Yes. I wrote a fun little tribute to her before I even got to see Scream 6, because I was just like, after Scream 5 broke my heart and I never took the time to celebrate 2. It was like, all right, well, I'm doing this now regardless, because I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I might as well just take my time to do this now before, things could go either way. And I won't say,
exactly.
and we'll get into that. But yeah, I mean, I think she has one of the best sequences in the movie, though. Holy crap. But again, I didn't feel like it was necessary. And I also kind of felt like the punching was a little too much.
Yeah, the timing of it was good, but it's like, we're doing this again.
Does Gen Z punch people?
Yeah, right.
They don't seem like they're into that. Like they'd want to have a talk.
Well, after 5, again, I was not sold. And again, I apologize for saying this, but after 5, I wasn't totally sold on Sam Carpenter as a character. And to be honest, I wasn't 100% sold on Melissa Barrera's performance. I liked some of the other supporting characters. I liked Tara a lot better. I liked the twins, but I was like, oh, this franchise going forward, is Sam really going to be the new Sydney? And I don't know how I feel about that. But after 6, I actually feel really good about it. I thought she really came into her own. I thought she did a great job. I like the character. I'm excited to see her continue in this franchise.
Absolutely. I really think that was one of the things that, like, for me, I think where 6 like exceeds what 5 does is it really gives you a chance to bond with these characters in new ways.
Yeah.
And kind of fall in love with them finally.
Yeah.
Where they were just sort of like serving like plot, like
they were Saved by the Bell, the new class in the in part 5.
And I think the way that we get to see them kind of gel a lot more and just break out a little bit more was really lovely. Yeah. Like I genuinely love these characters now.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I cool. Again, as somebody who was super attached to the characters from the first 4, that's really saying something.
Yeah. By the way, and this is something I learned also thanks to Twitter this weekend, and maybe you knew this and I'm just dumb, but did you realize that Mason Gooding is Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son?
I knew that. when I saw 5. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, how did I not know that? Especially because like his charisma is like on fire in this movie.
He's really good. Yeah. I had watched him on, I want to say he was on Picard, like one episode of Picard. And I had like looked him up because he seemed familiar or something. And that's when I found out he was Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son. So going into, I think 5, I knew who he was. But yeah, he's really, really good.
Yeah, I loved all of their sort of coming together in the core 4. I'm in
Core
for
4,
their
baby.
adventures. Yeah.
Well, let's get into spoilers so we can talk specifics. So if you've not yet seen Scream 6, if we haven't already sold you on it, hopefully we have. Go see Scream 6. We are both Scream fans. There's literally no bigger Scream fan than Heather. And if it gets her seal of approval, you know you're in for something special. So absolutely go see Scream 6 because we are going to start spoiling it beginning now.
Yes. I mean, you know, I don't want me to brag, but Ghostface did say I was a cut above the rest.
Right.
So
And if Ghostface says it,
it must be true.
it must be true. That's exactly right. So I'm really glad that they didn't. This is a double-edged sword here. I'm really glad that they didn't kill Gale Weathers because
Me too.
I don't want them to bring back legacy characters just to kill them off. I don't want that to be their fate. Like Dewey was hard, but I thought it made sense. I thought it was handled really, really well. It helped that David Arquette was kind of the heart of part 5. And so you really felt it when that happened. But I was worried that they were going to go the same route because they don't know what else to do to like write out these legacy characters. And they didn't. Having said that, I do sort of take issue with Gale Weathers' fate being the fate of literally every character in this movie, which is like they're stabbed 10 times, they're at death's door, but they're going to make it. I'm happy that they're alive. I didn't want any of the core 4 to die. Like, I'm not complaining that more characters should have been killed off. Please don't confuse this. But I just, it got a little repetitive. And again, that's a quibble.
Yeah.
That's it.
I know, I totally get it because
Yeah.
it was one of those situations where like, cause that entire sequence is fantastic. One, I love the fact that we finally get Gale getting a phone call.
Right.
Like as Ghostface reminds her, like she's never done this before.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. Just as like a longtime fan to like, oh, Gale's getting a call. Here we go. And I think that entire sequence is phenomenally paced and really well constructed. But I'm with you. Like, I was just like, I was prepping myself for Gale to die because I was like, well, all right, so we're just killing off legacy characters.
Right.
Honestly, it was one of those situations where it made me wonder, like, maybe that was one of the reasons Nev didn't want to do this because, like, maybe they were going to kill Sydney in this one to really shock people.
F that.
And she was kind of like, well, if you're going to do that, I want to get like, you know, I want to get paid. When she should. She's Sydney. She is, you know. But at the same time, I'm just like, do we need to do, like, I'm still not over Dewey's death. Like, I haven't come to terms with it. It's been over a year. It's going to be a really long time until I'm like emotionally okay with it. Like, I get it. It's super heroic. It really is this beautiful moment of like heartbreak and horror all in one, but I'm still not okay, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And with Gale, like if we're going to lose Gale, I just didn't want to see it done in a cheap way to evoke some sort of like reaction that I don't think the film needed because it was doing great on its own already.
Right.
So like if Gale's going to go out, she should get to go out like a champ. And to do it like right after Dewey just felt really, really weird.
Absolutely.
So, but I do like this sort of trend of Courtney Cox living in practically impossible apartments in New York City that I'm just like, how on earth do you do this? Like between Friends and this, I was just like, she's right at home. Although I don't think this apartment has rent control. So, yeah. So again, it's a really fantastic sequence, but I was a little at the end of it because I'm just like, I didn't know that I wanted to see her die, but also I felt like her like we have a fake pulse. And I was like, oh,
Right,
okay.
right.
Like it felt like a rare misstep for that movie.
Well, it seemed like
Not
they were kind of,
egregiously.
no, absolutely not. But they're kind of trying to have it both ways, where they kind of put us through the ringer and more or less kill Gale and then pull back at the last second and say, just kidding. No, we didn't. And you almost want them to commit one way or the other. Again, having said that, I don't need Gale to die. I see people on Twitter who are just like, well, if they're going to bring back these legacy characters, they better be brave enough to kill them off. And I don't agree. That is not
No,
what
I
I
don't
need
either.
out of a horror movie. Like, I often get angry when they bring back legacy characters just to kill them, or even bringing back Alice at the start of, Friday the 13th part 2. And then knitting needles in her head or something. I'm just like, did we need that? I'm
I
fine.
think it was a nice pick.
Oh, it was a nice pick. That makes more sense because she's looking at the fridge.
I do keep my knitting needles in the kitchen though, just in
it
case.
helps when they're cold.
You never know. You never know when you're gonna need them.
So I'm not a big fan of bringing back characters just to kill them. I'm looking at you, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, but
at least Nancy felt like she had a purpose in that movie, though. That
well,
wasn't,
she
you know
serves
what I mean?
a function before she dies. Yes, absolutely. That was my concern, was like, if they're going to kill Gale, that's literally the only reason they brought her back, because she doesn't do much else in this movie.
No, she brings them to the lair and she tries to kind of connect with the girls and be like, look, we've been through this. Like, I think she wants, because she's always been somebody who, regardless of the situation, she's always kind of been in Sydney's shadow.
Yes.
So I think in her way, she was sort of trying to become their Sydney, where she was like, look, like, you can rely on me, blah, blah, blah. Like, because she's not somebody who typically is that emotionally connected to people.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the times that she was like, with Dewey, they would connect and then they would disconnect. Because I think that's just the way that the character of Gale has always been built. I don't like that she went back on the book thing either.
Right.
I wish it would have been just a book celebrating Dewey.
Right.
That feels weird. And it doesn't feel, I feel like the Gale who went through everything that she went through in 5 post Dewey, I don't think she would have done what Gale in Scream 6 does. Gale 6, it sounds like a Star Trek character.
Which I'm into,
Yeah, I mean, that's a crossover we didn't know we needed, especially if Mason was in Picard.
That's right.
Starscream, can we call it that?
That's the name of a transformer.
Scream Check? Oh, it is, isn't it?
Yeah,
Scream Check.
Scream Check, I like.
Yes. Has anybody ever used in space? No one can hear you scream? I'm sure.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure you just invented that.
I'm sure. Don't ask Ridley Scott, though.
Why would I ask him? That makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know you talk to him frequently, so.
True.
Sure.
But we only talk about our crippling gambling habits.
Oh, I get it. It's okay to ask for help, Patrick, if you need
it. They almost seem afraid of like giving Gale some growth, and they just kind of write the Gale that we've always known, and it sells her a little bit short. But again, these are nitpicks.
Yeah, totally. I mean, again, like I said, like, I'm always happy to see Gale. I'm always happy to see Gale on the investigative beat. I like the fact that she was able to find something that the FBI and the police had no idea about, because that's just so Gale. So I like that. But yeah, I just, the book thing, I was just kind of like, oh, okay. Especially for somebody who has a picture of Dewey still on her nightstand, which I'm not quite sure how her current beau at the time was feeling about that. I'd be a little,
we don't get to learn much about him.
No. I mean, he is dispatched with quickly.
Yes,
and very effectively too. I really liked that little that how that was all framed in terms of like her facing us, and then when you see Ghostface grab him really quickly in the background, I thought that was really well staged. But yeah, I'm just kind of like, is your current boyfriend cool with the fact that you have your ex-husband on your nightstand? Because I have 0 pictures of my ex-husband in my house. I mean, he wasn't killed by Ghostface or anything, but
there's time.
That would be weird. No.
I'm joking, everyone.
No. I'm good with how both of our lives turned out. We're both doing fine.
Good.
But yeah, like it was like, oh, I mean, I always get happy to see that photo because I know that was like from uh David and Courtney, just like in real life. Like that wasn't
Sure.
like a promotional still for Scream or anything. So it just
Right.
makes me a little reminds me of the good times.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I mean the sequence is fantastic, but I felt sort of the last 2 minutes of it was just a little cheapened, I think. Because like, what are you gonna do?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, definitely.
And so, and also, like, did nobody in Gail's building like hear gunshots and be like, maybe like, I know they called the police, but like nobody in her building was like, hey, that woman in that apartment might be in trouble because there's a lot of gunshots and crashing noises and stuff.
Well, as soon as I
And it's
saw,
New York.
right, exactly. I saw a Twitter thread that maybe it was a Facebook thread, whatever, I don't know, from somebody that we both are aware of, and one of the major complaints was like about the movie's lack of believability, and I don't generally care about that stuff. I'm never like, this is so fake. If that person got stabbed that many times, they would die. Like, I'm fine if they say like, no, they're alive. Um, but I did have to scratch my head a little. I love the idea of the shrine. I love getting to see all that stuff again because, again, as Scream fans, it's like, oh, look, there's the TV and there's the. But the notion that like there's a Ghostface killer who literally pops up every few years and claims multiple bodies. This is like an ongoing police case, and the notion that all of that evidence could go missing and no one would notice is a little crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the thing that I actually have the biggest issue with is that everybody in these in 5 and 6 use Android phones.
I
Like
don't
to
even
me, I'm
think I
like,
noticed.
yeah, I'm just like, what are we doing here? You're telling me that literally every character in all of these movies uses an Android? I don't believe you. I'm out. No, I absolutely, and we can get into that. Like, I love the lair idea. I think
Yes.
it's great. I think the way that they frame it is not great. I think the idea, like, because like it was the like, and I guess we're gonna get into who the ghost faces are.
Yeah, we're in
But
spoilers,
was
so we can.
yeah, but like, was Detective Bailey like going and raiding the Woodsboro Police Department's
Apparently, and they were
evidence
just
locker?
letting him. Like, I am from New
And
York.
like
Oh, that's
Dewey,
fine. Have at it.
and like Dewey, who was the sheriff for years in Woodsboro, never noticed that all this stuff had gone missing from other cases. And then
Right.
also he somehow managed to get stuff out of like the Hollywood Police Department. I mean, maybe our cops,
Again,
they've got a price.
yeah,
Um,
ultimately, who really cares? Because it's a cool sequence and it's a neat visual. And it's like, so if I have to call into question the reality of it and I just have to shrug my shoulders, I'm fine doing that.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I like the idea of it. I would have liked it framed better. And
Yes.
that was one of my quibbles with it.
Yeah.
So
Let's talk about real quick, since you brought him up, Detective Bailey
my
is.
my buddy Dermot
I
Mulroney.
know you got to talk to him. Well, then I probably know your answer. I'm back and
I
forth
don't know
on
that.
Dermot Mulroney as an actor. He's somebody I'm always happy to see show up. Sometimes I think his performances really work. Sometimes I'm like, what's he doing? And in Scream, I thought he walked that line in a fascinating way where I was like, is this a great performance or a terrible performance? And I lean towards great. Like, I love it either way, but it's weird what he chooses to do.
It's one of those where I think he's leaning into the more grandiose villain things. Like once we get into the reveal of everything in
Yeah.
in the finale.
He doesn't go full
And
Oliphant, which I appreciate.
no, I will always appreciate when anybody goes full Oliphant.
I love Timothy
To be really
Oliphant, but I
honest.
don't love his like crazy mode at the end of Scream 2.
I actually like it's funny because I still think of like my initial reaction of when it was Mrs. Loomis, and I was like, wait, what the fuck? Um, but
Which
then
is what
like,
this movie is doing. They're remaking Scream 2. That's what I
oh,
think
it
is so
totally
funny
is.
about it. Yeah.
This is absolutely Scream 2. The finale takes place in a theater, this time a
Right.
movie theater instead of a theatrical theater. You got a grieving
Family
parent
members
getting
avenging the death
yes
of, yeah,
of a loved one.
college
It's
setting.
full on. Oh yeah, full on Scream 2.
Yeah.
remake. I don't even know what we're gonna call it. But like, but Laurie Metcalf goes very big
She does.
in that finale, but yet, like, I'm cool with it, and I really think this was Dermot kind of trying to match the energy of Mrs. Loomis in that finale. But I think because he was trying to sort of manipulate certain aspects of the story early on, like his character, I think he has to be a little grandiose in some ways, like when he comes out crying after the Quinn sequence.
Right.
Where I think he has to do that because he has to really sell that moment because it's not authentic. So I totally get what you're saying. I think for me, I like Dermot Mulroney in this. I hate the reveal.
Interesting.
Okay, first of all, full disclosure, I did see the leaked footage.
Oh, okay.
So the leaked footage that and it was literally like me going through Twitter, and I didn't realize that it wasn't on the following tab, it was on the For You tab. And I was scrolling down, and all of a sudden I saw this thing where there was somebody with a ghost face mask and Dermot Mulroney standing next to them. And I was like, did they just release another trailer? And then it took me like 2 to 3 more seconds for me to realize what I was seeing as the freaking kid was pulling off Andrew, right? Is that the character's name? Sorry, I should have pulled up my IMDb before we did this. Okay. I was working. Not Quinn.
Ethan,
that's what it was. Sorry, I think
please call
Jack
him Spider.
Yeah. So anyway, I and literally as soon as like it's like pulling up, I was having this moment of like, oh my god, and I was like trying to like get the hell out of there. And so I saw like 6 seconds of that reveal, and then I saw that there was 3. And I was like, oh shit, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But the thing is by seeing that, I knew Quinn's death was bullshit.
I knew Quinn's death was bullshit for the same reason I knew Skeet's death was bullshit in Scream 1. Like,
and also Roman's
you don't see it
in Scream 3.
Right.
Exactly.
If you don't see it, they're not dead. That's the rule.
Exactly. So like, I mean, it's almost like a wrestling kayfabe thing. Like if you don't see it happen, it didn't actually happen.
Right.
But yeah, so it was because I knew there was 3. And at that point I knew Dermot and the kid were in on it.
Okay.
I was just like, in the little head tilt that Quinn's Ghostface does, who is played by, let me look her, Liana Liberato. I just knew immediately. I was like, oh, okay, so they're in on it. I was just like, so what's the deal then? And then of course it's revealed that they're the family of Jack Quaid, who is
which is good casting because Spider looks a lot like Jack Quaid.
Dude, it's so funny. Somebody on Twitter, like the Scream account, posted a photo of the premiere with both Jacks standing there hanging out at the after party, and when somebody's like, wow, they look like brothers, and I can't even tell you the restraint. And I was just like, and somebody who I guess had seen it like at a preview in Australia was like, and like I was just like, whoa, like it was really good casting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, again, it's one of those when you've seen it already and it just feels really ridiculous, because like how did then Quinn find an anonymous ad on Craigslist to move in with the Carpenter sisters?
Listen, except for the original Scream, I don't think I've ever been like fully satisfied with the reveal of the killer in any Scream movie. Like, I accept them all and they're fine, whatever, but I don't think I've ever been like, wow, that's cool, to any of them except for the first one.
Two I'm okay with because Mrs. Loomis comes to play, because again, it was one of those things initially where I was like, wait, what? And then I was like, what the hell is going on? So that was the first one where I was like genuinely surprised, like beyond the first. 3, I'm cool with. I know most people aren't. That's fine. I actually think 4 is a really good reveal because I think it says a lot about that generation.
Yeah, no, it's, again, like I said, I accept most of them, and I think the Emma Roberts reveal is cool. Sometimes when they add the second killer, it's a little bit like, and also this person, which is Mickey, which is Amber from part 5, and which a little bit to me is Culkin from part 4, where it's like, this person makes sense. And then they also have this person.
Yeah, I think also too, but if you think about like with Scream 4, like Charlie was actually the first reveal.
I don't even remember.
Yeah, so Emma's actually the second reveal because you have this sequence with Hayden when she's answering Ghostface right, and then she opens the door to go rescue Charlie, and then he stabs her. And then Nev takes off, and then that's when she runs into Jill dressed as Ghostface. Maybe I know. I might have these things a little memorized.
That's true of 5 actually too. Amber is the first reveal, and then Richie.
Yeah. So I actually think the reveals in 4 are really solid.
Mm-hmm.
I think just especially because what it says about that generation versus the legacy generation, and sort of what motivates them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just one of those where I was just like, I was okay, like if it's those characters, but I just can't believe like Sam wouldn't have known that he had a family that would have given a shit.
Yeah, it's
about his death.
Right. It's all a little ridiculous.
That to me, it was just like, yeah, because they were dating for 6 months, and she knew nothing about his family, like at all. Like you'd think if like you're somebody who's related to Billy Loomis, and at that point you're like trying to be, living incognitus, as we like to say in our house, you'd want to do your due diligence about who you're hooking up with. So you'd want to find out about their family to some degree, just to make sure that you're cool. Because like the last thing you need is like, especially if you're living in like Northern California, is that like somebody you're dating like has family back in Woodsboro or something like that. So yeah, it feels a little half cooked to me. Do I feel like the entire finale is pretty fantastic though? I do. I think it's like probably the most action packed of any of the finales, and it really goes hard, as the kids say.
Well, it helps that you have like 7 or 8 characters still running around at that point.
There's like,
usually there's 3.
Yeah, there's like chaos everywhere in that scene. And it's got a really great energy. Like for a movie that's 2 hours and 3 minutes, like it doesn't dawdle whatsoever.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, I just was kind of like, oh, okay.
Well, I knew it was Quinn as soon as she said something about like, I lost my brother. I didn't necessarily know that the brother was Richie, but I just was like, oh, she's mourning somebody. She's a killer. I knew that meant that it was Dermot Mulroney because he's her dad. Again, not knowing that he's Richie's dad. And then I didn't necessarily think there were 3 killers, but I did waver back and forth on Spider because I was like, they're making it too obvious that he is. So therefore,
he's the
reveal
only
is going
one
to be
with
that
Mindy.
he is, right? Exactly.
Yeah, like he's literally in the train with Mindy. Although I think Quinn says she stabbed Mindy, which seems weird.
She would have had to, right?
I guess.
Because he runs over to her, so he's not.
He does after, but who knows that he didn't take his costume off?
Yeah, that's true. But I do love when Mindy's texting and she goes on with Ethan, aka GF.
Yeah. So yeah,
she keeps calling him Ghostface.
Yeah, I actually totally forgot that he was the kid on the bike that Paul Rudd runs into in the Endgame. When Paul Rudd gets out of the quantum realm,
yeah, I didn't realize
trying to go back to his house. Yeah, I had forgotten.
So he's got quite a career going.
He does. But yeah, it was one of those like. It's tough because there's Scream movies and there's expectations, and like, how do you live up to those expectations? How do you live up to my stupid expectations? I don't think anybody ever is gonna. But I mean, I like the fact that they ambitiously tried to do something that felt very much in the line of Scream 2, which is obviously what they were doing with this story, but at the same time also mixing it up and having 3 Ghostfaces for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Because like I didn't go into the Scream thinking we were going to have 3 Ghostfaces.
Right. Sometimes I don't even expect 2 because I just like they've done 2 so many times that part of me is like, well, they won't do 2 again, right? No, they're going to do 3.
No, look, there's only one Roman Bridger. Okay, thank you.
The ambitious Roman Bridger. I will say, okay, so as long as we're talking about nitpicks again, I really like this movie overall. I do
Are you?
object.
I think you're going where I think you're going, and I'm okay with that.
No, it's fine. It's the scene at the very end. The sort of after everybody's dead, and we have kind of the denouement outside as they're loading people into ambulances, and look, Chad's still alive, and it bummed me out a little that the screenwriters underestimate our intelligence to get certain things, because we have stuff like Tara saying, "Thanks for letting me go," and Sam says, "I knew you could handle yourself." I was like, no, I was there, I saw that, I understood the subtext of that moment. You didn't need to say it. Or for Kirby, who we need to get back to say, like, legacy characters aren't always bad. Like, no, I got that. Or Sam
who in
maybe
real life
have a Tommy Jarvis moment, and then
but
throw
also
the
who
mask
in real
down.
life calls himself the legacy character?
Well, right, yeah, exactly.
I mean, I guess they're film geeks, but still,
right.
I'm a film geek. I don't call myself a legacy character in any capacity. Like, it's weird. It's a little too self-referential, I think.
Right. And we've done the beat of Sam, like, how dark is she going to go? She has Billy Loomis blood in her. Is she going to be this killer? And then she rejects the idea. And it's like, we did that beat already when she was stabbing the shit out of who? Who's she
in
stabbing
this movie or
in this movie? Yeah.
Oh, it's when she's stabbing the shit out of, I think it's Ethan.
Okay.
I think.
And there's a moment, and Tara kind of looks at her like, "Oh my gosh, are you the psycho?" And so we get that beat in terms of, like, how far over the line is she going to go, because she's part Billy Loomis. So for them to then do the thing with the mask where it's like, oh, is she going to go dark? And then she throws it down. They just repeat too many beats that they kind of just covered in the previous sequence in that very last scene. Again, deal breaker? No. But just clumsy writing a little bit.
Yeah. What I will say is some of the things that I really freaking absolutely loved about this. One, I love the opening. Look, did I want Samara Weaving to be throughout the entire movie? Of course I did.
Yes.
But is she the perfect girl to be our opening kill? Yes. And honest to God, okay, so I'm watching it and the phone rings at the beginning and you're like, all right, here we go. And then it's a restaurant and you're like, wait, what?
Right.
I'm like, hold up. Is Ghostface calling for reservations? Like, what's happening? And then when she bites it and freaking Tony Revolori. Sorry. Yes, I love him on Servant, by the way. He is one of my favorite, like, underappreciated actors on that series. When he pulls the mask off, I legitimately said in the theater, oh shit.
Yeah.
And the two girls next to me laughed, which I was just like, I'm like, do you not get what this moment means right now? This means that literally all bets are freaking off.
Right.
And I was like, hell yes. And then they go into the whole sequence. He's watching Jason 8. He's getting played with. He doesn't even know it. And it's like, and then it's a nod to Friday 2 because his roommate's in the freaking fridge.
With the knitting needles.
With Jason, with Mrs. Voorhees. So like that, all of that, I was like, holy shit. I wanted more of that energy to keep going because I do think that they kind of repeat some beats and it's fine. I feel like that might've been studio stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that to me, that doesn't totally feel 100% radio silence. I feel because those dudes are audacious. Like they will push shit. Like watch Ready or Not and tell me that those guys don't come to play 100%. So some of the stuff that I do have the quibbles with, I feel like I could almost tell you that was like some producer's note.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Two, I love the reliance of using iconic figures in horror as character names. Like I get, we know where the Carpenter sisters come from.
Yeah.
But like, did you realize that cute boy / Danny, his last name is Brackett?
I did not know that. I'm not totally sold on cute boy, but
I actually really liked him in this movie. At first I was like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
But I really I liked that he was there and he wasn't just like a red herring, like he wasn't communism. That's a cool reference. I like that he was like, no, you know what? You shouldn't trust me. You shouldn't trust anybody. I'm gonna go stay over here. You go do your thing.
Right.
You know, go kill some motherfuckers, and we'll meet up later and go get coffee. Like that's what you need out of a supportive person in your life. Like I'm all for Josh Segarra in this. But also obviously Laura, the teacher Laura, her last name is Crane, which I'm guessing is a hat tip to Marion Crane.
I'm sure
from
it is.
Psycho.
Yeah.
And then also her psychiatrist, his name is Dr. Christopher Stone, who was Dee Wallace's husband.
Right.
And also in The Howling and stuff. So I really like how they were able to do that. I'm sure there's probably others that I'm not getting. I'm not sure where the Bailey comes in yet. Unless it's a reference to how they talk about Bailey leaving what's her face in Scream 2 when Cece's on the phone. So I don't know if that's just like a little fun thing for that. And I feel like Landry is something.
Yeah.
Landry is something. I just don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Okay.
I feel like that's got to be something, though.
I'm sure it is.
You know what I mean?
I doubt they're going to do it for like a few, but not everybody.
Yeah, if anybody out there knows where I'm missing Landry from, because it sounds familiar to me. So yeah, I was all about that kind of stuff. Like, I'm like, yeah, give me those little fun in jokes. Like, some people complain about that stuff. I'm like, I don't care. Like, that just tells me that you're a horror movie geek. Like, if a director takes the time to do that kind of stuff, like, I know where their heart is, and it's like on the side of the genre. So, you know, just step back. Shoot, I was going to say something else, and I totally forgot. Also, I want to say, like, Devin Nakota, who's Annika in this, I loved her, and her death hit. That was a really tough one. That whole sequence is awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. There's a lot of really good like set pieces in the movie.
Yeah, and I was really bummed that she died because I really liked her character a lot. She was the one where I was good, like, and her to make it.
Her death, while not, I won't say it's the equivalent of Dewey's in part 5, just because we've been with Dewey for 5 movies and we love Dewey. It's certainly the one that's like the most deeply felt in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, her and Jasmine have fantastic chemistry in this.
Yeah, they're fun together.
Yeah, so I was all about them, and I wanted her to make it, and I was sad that she didn't.
Can we talk about Jasmine and Kirby? Not Jasmine.
Mindy.
Mindy, thank you. I'm calling her the actress by her first name like we're friends. Mindy and Kirby saying that the two Candymans are equal.
Look, I like the new Candyman.
That's totally fine.
I would never, ever put it in the same level as the original Candyman. I just can't.
Madness. Everything else they were saying, I was so on board with. I like that they named 2 and 4 for the best Friday. I get it. Psycho 2 is underrated. Yes, it is. But then they get to Candyman and they're like, oh, they're, they basically say that they're equal, and they're not.
No, they're not. Like, I like the new Candyman a great deal.
Sure.
I enjoyed it immensely, but it like there are moments of the original Candyman that will like literally live in my brain for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And there's some good sequences in the new Candyman, but they're not going to live in my brain the same way.
Yeah.
It's just not.
And I'm saying so many negative things about this movie, but I'm just using this to like process my feelings about it, because I haven't talked to anybody about it.
We're having a little talk through about it. It's
right,
okay.
Exactly. Because I was like, I knew we were doing this podcast. I knew we were going to talk about it. Couldn't really talk through a lot of this stuff with Charlie because he's 14 and is like, what are you talking about, Dad? Stop it. Just enjoy the movie. I was super happy to have Hayden Panettiere back. I like Kirby as a character. I just think the whole inclusion is a little sweaty.
Yeah, I was not happy with the presentation of Kirby in this.
Okay.
I didn't love it. Like, I didn't buy her as an FBI agent.
It's just weird. Like, it's just a weird way to include her. I don't know how else they should have. I don't have alternate ideas for like, how do you include
I
Kirby
would
in
have
this story? But it's a little bit
literally
of like,
they could have just had her living in New York.
sure.
Like she wanted to get as far away from Woodsboro as she could, so she just eventually moved to New York. And then she's like, "Oh, she hears about Ghostface murders," and she's like, "Okay, well, I should go and reach out to these girls then."
I don't love when the internet writes stuff, you know, like her inclusion is a little bit like the internet writing the sequel because everybody's such a big fan of her that they're like, well, out of fan service, let's bring her back. And there was already the Easter egg in 5, and I was fine with that. Again, it's not a deal breaker for me, but I just
Yeah, I think she had in her contract, and this was something I think she talked about, or somebody talked about at some point, where we were never supposed to see Kirby die on screen because I think she was, if Westhead was able to go forward with another one, I think she was going to be back.
oh, okay.
So I think that's kind of part of it. So in some ways they're kind of honoring what Wes wanted for the character, but her inclusion feels a little forced,
Yes.
which is kind of a bummer because I love Kirby like so
Right,
much. I
exactly.
just want to
Right.
hang out with her and talk about movies and stuff. And I hope that maybe when we get to see her again, like maybe it'll be a little, because like when we met all these characters, it was a little rough, but it was good. So maybe like Kirby in 7, if she pops back in, it'll be a little better. It'll be a little more organic to the scenario. But yeah, to me, like it's
or just don't bring her back, you know? Like again, I like her. I'm happy to see her pop up. I'm happy for Hayden Panettiere to get the work. So I'm not saying write her out, but like they've developed this core 4 enough that they don't necessarily need to keep looking backwards.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the strength of the first 4 movies is they were never. I mean, other than 4 in a way, but still the core 3 of those movies in terms of Gale, Sydney, and Dewey, they still were always front and center in the stories, regardless of how Scream 4 was presented. I mean, it's still about Sydney being back in Woodsboro,
Right.
and she is the catalyst.
Right.
Even though we're supposed to be following, all these other characters and, trying to like, with Jill and Charlie and all them. Like we're supposed to pretend that they're at the center of this, but really it was always Gale and Dewey and Sydney.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. Like if they come back, I want there to be like a really good reason that feels like it's in support of the story that Radio Silence wants to tell. I don't want them to feel like they have to serve the needs of us folks,
right,
that have been with this franchise for 27 years or whatever it is now. It's okay to break out. Like I'm okay with that. Like I think it was I'm absolutely 1000% behind the sentiment of Neve Campbell getting paid what she deserves.
Yes.
But at the same time, I don't need her to be in these movies. I'm cool. Like you want to create a whole new horror franchise around Neve Campbell as an actress? I'm freaking in. I will go see that shit 10 times in theaters. I'm in. But like Sydney's done. I think at this point, Gale should go retire and be like, you know what? Maybe this whole life really wasn't worth it.
Well, and that's ultimately, I think, what this sequel demonstrates is you don't need Sydney to have a satisfying Scream movie. And up until this point, that theory has not been tested. And the idea was, well, Sydney is Scream, so how can you do it without her? And the truth is you can. Like I'm exactly with you. I would love for her to get paid. I like when she shows up and stuff. But don't put her in 7 just because you think you need to have Sydney in a Scream movie.
I would love, and we can talk about this more in terms of where we think 7's going. What I would love to see is somebody's doing a remake of the Stab franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore evokes a new ghost face. And thus Sydney gets pulled into that somehow because some 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon way, as Portia de Rossi points out in Scream 2, like it's all because of Sydney. So that to me would be kind of interesting, where like, okay, we're at the point where we're remaking everything or doing requels or whatever it is. So like take it away from like examining the Scream franchise and examine what the Stab movies within the context of this universe have actually meant to the Scream franchise as a whole, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Am I just saying words? I might just be saying words.
At this point, we both are.
Yeah. But yeah, like I want if we're gonna bring them back, make it feel purposeful.
Yes.
But I don't need it. Like I'm good. Like I'm
Right.
really good. Like,
Yes, because
you
again, to
know,
their credit, they have built up a universe that doesn't require these legacy characters, and they've given us something that we didn't necessarily know we wanted, which is a new group of people to care about and follow through these stories.
yeah, I actually think the ambulance scene at the end of 5 when Sam goes up to Sydney and Gail and says, "Thank you both so much for everything that you've done for us." Like I said this when we recorded our episode last year. Like that was them. That was
Right.
Sam being the fans of the Scream franchise,
Right.
saying like, "We will always welcome you back, but if this is it, thank
We'll
you for
take it
everything
from
you've
here.
given us."
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was the perfect, passing of the baton.
Mm-hmm.
Which to me was perfect. So, I didn't need it to be sort of shoehorned in. I mean, am I mad about Gail being in it? No, but at the same time, but I will tell you what, if they do the stab route, she gets stabbed, but we don't see her die. I would love it if it was Angelique. I want to bring Emily Mortimer back. How do I do that?
I mean, I guess they could bring anybody back at this point, right?
Oh, of course. I mean, literally, like, and we talked about this at the end of 5, where I'm like, okay, like I know it's a joke at this point about Stu not being dead. Like it's all over the internet. They make a joke about it in this one. So
Yes.
legitimately, like 7 has to be Stu, right? Because what are we even doing at this
No,
point?
it can't
Do
be
you know what I mean?
Stu.
But
Yeah.
like, how amazing would that be?
Not
Like,
amazing.
I think it would be like if they could find the right way to frame it, where he's like literally like he's the character that always gets like pushed to the side over Billy Loomis. Like Billy Loomis, everything's about Billy Loomis, right? And here's Stu, who was like an integral part of all of this. Like he killed people too, and like to not be like in that sort of same like space as all the other Ghostface killers. Well, if you're still alive, you know what you got to do? You got to come back and you have to reaffirm your legacy. So I pitched it at the end of our Scream 5 episode.
Yeah.
I'm going to pitch it again, but like, I think you could do it in a way that would be really freaking awesome. And if there's ever any reason to have to bring Sydney back, that's that.
That would be the reason. Yeah.
You know?
Well, you need to call some people at Radio Silence.
Yes, I don't think they take pitches, but
No, I don't think they do. I think you're right.
And look, the writers, Guy Busick Guy Busick and James Vanderbilt, they're doing great. They don't need my help. But I'm just saying, if you need some ideas for 7, I'm here. I'm available. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I work cheap.
Yeah.
I will work for free. Like, just give me some of the stuff from the lair, and I'm cool. That's it. That's all I need. I don't need the money. I just,
you
I just want to
need
live
the
in
top story jacket.
Streamerverse.
Yeah.
A little bit. Where I was just like, shit. I was like, do we need to do a top story jacket or top story t-shirt for our little Craven collection? Maybe.
I keep waiting for the whole Billy Loomis bloodline thing to pay off, and I do feel like they've kind of closed the door there with her dropping the mask, and like if they keep going back to it, it feels unnecessary. But I will say that I do like the inclusion of that detail, if only because, yeah, right. Well, it brings Skeet Ulrich back, which is fun, but also I love when Sam goes berserker mode. Like her murder of Richie in 5 is maybe the most satisfying kill in any of the movies. I love it so much.
Totally.
So watching her just go nuts on these people, having her be, Billy Loomis's daughter makes it totally worth it.
Yeah, it's a weird aspect that like I didn't know if it was going to gel for me going into a second movie, but right. I like that they made it work in the moments that they needed it to.
Yeah.
And it does give you a moment of pause with her character where you're like, oh, is this girl, is she going to go to the dark side? Is this like the Emperor turning her to like the dark side?
Right.
Is the Emperor Ghostface as opposed to Darth Ghostface going to like get her over? but it's such a weird thing. Like I have to imagine like people who've like never seen a Scream movie going into like Scream 5 and 6 and like thinking it's like a straight up slasher, but like now there's like a go like this like I know it's a manifestation of her like psychological, state.
Yeah.
But it feels like Ghost. Like the presentation, it feels very much like everybody's making Ghost dad jokes, but like legitimately it has like this weird ghosty vibe now. But I'm not mad at that. I'm just like, okay, like let's get a little weird and break the formula a little bit.
Right.
It's very much sort of like, Amy Steele kind of doing her Mrs. Voorhees in Friday 2 in a way, where, you have to sort of invoke the parental figure in order to unleash something, or in Jason's case, quell it, soothe the savage beast, if you will. So it's an interesting dynamic that, I'll always be happy to see Skeets.
Yeah. Right.
It's fun. It's goofy. It's, and that's the thing. It's also too, it's like, so it's hard for me to nitpick a bunch of things when we have that aspect of this story in there already, where I'm like, so why are we so worried about where he actually got all of the ghost face masks and costumes?
True. Yeah, right. She's
stuff?
talking to ghosts, so what difference does it make?
Yeah, right? Like, all right, cool. Like, I'm just on the ride.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it would be interesting of Sam having to go full ghost face in order to destroy Stu, if you think about it that way. Because like, what is, look, all I'm saying is like Stu and Billy were in it together, but yet you felt that little bit of division, there in the end of the movie, where like, you stabbed a little too deep, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Where like they would have easily sold each other out if they could have to get through this. So Stu starts messing with things again. And so what does Sam have to do in order to do this? She's got to become Ghostface and destroy him. So you have Ghostface versus Ghostface. Like, what else do you do at this point? You've now done 3 Ghostface.
Right.
Like Ghostface versus Ghostface. Give it to me. By the way, I'm gonna be really. I better get a special thanks if this is the way shit goes on 7.
I'm sure you will. You and James Janice.
Yes. Oh, does he have the same thing?
He just has a special thanks at the end of 6.
Oh, okay. I mean, I know they were in 5.
Yeah, he and his wife have a special thanks. I'm not sure why, because I didn't see them in this one, but
I think that I think it's some of the prop stuff that's in the lair. I think they helped with.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool.
I think so. I think that's what it was. Okay. I can't remember. Or there's something in like somebody's room that is referenced to them or something like that. It was funny though, seeing like the last podcast on the left poster on the wall, because like I always wonder, like, do people actually listen to podcasts? I say this as we're recording a podcast. You know what I mean? Like, and it was just kind of like nice to be like, oh, podcast culture is like a real thing.
Well, let's get Craven into Scream 7.
Yeah.
Or Corpse Club, whatever. I know we're recording Corpse Club right now.
I know, but still. Also, how much did the Abe Snake sign make you smile?
That was pretty awesome.
Oh my God. I squealed when I saw it.
I probably wouldn't have noticed it had you not pointed it out to me ahead of time.
I wanted you to be ready for it.
Yeah,
so I was like, I'm like, it's not a spoiler, but just be aware we have an Abe Snake sighting going on in this. So, and it was funny because like Emily Von Salo was like, wait, what does that mean? And I was like, that was Wes's porn directing name. And she was like, oh. Yeah, so I was like, they cut deep for that one.
They sure did.
So I appreciate that.
It was worth it.
I mean, I would have appreciated like a little musical store called like Music of the Heart or something like that, or Music of the Harp or something. I'm easy. I'll take any reference. I don't care.
Hot Guy's last name should have been Pinker.
Oh my God. Me and Brian Collins would have never we probably would still be like living in the theater for that. I think we're the only 2 people that go like completely like crazy over Shocker. So
yeah. All right. Well, we should probably wrap it up, but thank you all for listening to us talk through our Our feelings about Scream 6. Again, I want to reiterate, even though I like had some nitpicks and complaints, I really like this movie. I'm really happy that we have a Scream 6 that's as solid as this one is. And I'm more excited about Scream 7 than I probably have been for any Scream sequel since part 2.
Yeah, I'm all in. I mean, I was never not all in, but I'm like all in
Yeah.
now. You know what I mean? Like where I'm like super in.
I like it.
And I'm excited. Like I'm happy for us as older fans, but like I'm also happy for like the Charlies of the
Right.
world, where like your kid like who gets to go and like have a horror franchise that's kind of like built for his age group too.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
it's you know, it's not Megan where it's PG-13, but
Right.
like
Right.
you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
something cool that like he can talk to his friends. Like that was the cool thing about coming out of the theater, seeing it Thursday night, is there was groups of people who had just gotten out of different screenings of it talking about it in the parking lot. And like I live for that shit. Like that
Yeah.
to me is like that's what makes movies so great.
Yeah.
And like I just love that feeling because I don't feel like we like everybody just has to immediately go on social media to talk about things, you know, where it was like real people having real conversations. Like I think the guy that was in our screening had gone to the 5 o'clock show because like he had the poster.
Oh, cool.
So he went like twice that night,
Yeah, that's
which
pretty
is
awesome.
pretty amazing. So, you know, it makes me really happy as a horror fan. Like I will always be precious about certain things, but like I know at this point nobody's going to touch Wes's 4 Scream movies. So I can let it go a little bit. I don't have to be super mad if we don't have the characters from those first 4 movies anymore. And if we're going to move forward, you know, as long as we get a good Scream movie, I'm happy.
Yeah.
You know.
Well said.
So, thanks. I try.
Yeah, no, you succeed. Thank you all very much for listening. Make sure you're going to dailydead.com every day for cool horror stuff, and make sure you're listening to Corpse Club every Friday. On behalf of my horror BFF co-host Heather Wixson, I just want to say until next time, stay scary.